Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So this is the pre-expo episode. Basically the last video that I'm going to have on the channel prior to actually starting to record some videos for the expo. So I'm recording this one on the Tuesday night. Wednesday will be kind of a preparation day, but I wanted to take a video here just to talk about kind of how I'm going to prepare for this show and kind of the usual approach that I take as far as the expo is concerned. Now, it really doesn't differ that much in the way I would prepare for any card show or any kind of event that I'm going to go to where, a little bit of planning is involved. You don't really have to go in with a plan, just to be clear. It's just something that I like to do because it means that it minimizes the amount of distraction I'm going to have. It helps a lot, certainly, that I go to this show regularly and that I've been to, probably about 50 of these because they're about twice a year prior to the pandemic, and then we obviously had some time off during that, and now we're back on a cycle. This is the second one in a row here. So we did the fall one last year, and now we're going to do this one in the summer. A little different time than normal. Normally it's around May-ish, late April, but we're pushed into June, and the weather has certainly turned, so it's definitely a lot warmer. But it's going to be nice outside for the most part, so that's good. Hotel has been booked and general arrangements have been made, and this is certainly the kind of show where usually if you know some folks, and it's a good opportunity to get in touch and get reacquainted, have a good conversations, and I fully intend to take advantage of that. But this episode I want to talk a little bit about some of the other stuff. I never set up as a dealer at a show, so certainly if I was going to set up as a dealer, it would be a very different style of preparation. Maybe if I ever do that down the road, I could certainly try making a video about it. Now, as it is from my perspective, I'm going to be somebody who's going to be kind of wandering around, looking around at things on the floor. But where I do differ from, I think, a lot of the folks that you'll see vlogs from and things is that I'm not spending the whole time on the floor. I'll be completely honest with you. I have a few buddies that I can kind of camp out at, and usually I'll drop off some of my stuff at one of my buddies' booths because they set up every single time, and it's an opportunity first to chat and get acquainted, but it's also good to have a place where you can sit down. Not everybody has that, so I don't spend too much time elaborating on that, but that's really the approach that I've taken on a show that I'm very familiar with. Obviously, that also means I'm generally familiar with the layout. This one is in a different hall. They've got a couple of different halls in that convention center that are configured differently. The one we were at last time was one that I hadn't been at in a long time, so it was a different configuration. This was a little bit more traditional, but nonetheless, we are going to have a different kind of setup. So this is the finalized floor plan. And I'm starting off by sharing this with you. I don't have too much on to put on the screen anyway, but part of the reason I wanted to share this one with you is usually this is part of my preparation. You certainly don't have to spend too much time looking at the floor plan of a big show that you're going to go to. I certainly don't commit it to memory, and I keep a PDF copy of this on my phone. But that'll be kind of one of the little tips and things that I usually do as far as preparing is concerned. I usually also have the list of the vendors, so I can do that based on the numbering system they've got there. But you've also got your landmarks that are going to kind of help you figure out your way around. So you can see there you've got, and this is the finalized version, so we've got all the logos and everything on there. So you can see PSA there. Beside the bathrooms, so that's kind of good to know on that sector. Right in the middle here, you got the upper deck and universal distribution. You got the food court over here. I'll probably spend some time over in this vicinity, but some of these are obviously sponsored. You got the eBay one, you got PWCC over here. And Beckett has got his own booth going on over here, and the autograph pavilion's over here. So based on that, you can pretty quickly orient yourself. Walking in the building, it's one of those things where if it's a show you're not familiar with, you're not going to have that same ability necessarily, not the same level of comfort or familiarity. But obviously, when they redo the configuration a little bit, it does change things up. But nonetheless, it's still standard enough that once I walk in, you can pretty much get the sense of it, because I believe the entrance is going to be right here. So this is our Hall 2 entrance. And then you come in, and then you can kind of start figuring it out from there. So you can quickly pick off where the aisles are, figure out the direction. There's PSA. You can pretty much go in a straight line down that way if you want to. You got Heritage Auctions up here near the front. And then, like I said, the food court's all the way over here. Your loading docks are back here, and this is going to be a spot that's going to be kind of interesting to gauge, and it'll be something I'll talk about maybe in the vlogs. We've got this set of tables over here, which are kind of off in their own little quadrant. That should be fine, though, because it is still open to the main floor, so that shouldn't be too much of an issue for them. It's not like the last show where you kind of had to go all the way to the back of an area, go across, a little bit of a crossing, and then go over to where the autograph area is, and if you didn't know it was there, you would kind of lose sight of it. So it's kind of interesting. So having these different landmarks is super helpful. So like I said, just having a copy of this kind of thing with you is usually pretty helpful, I find, historically. I don't spend too much time after the first day or two staring at it unless there's a specific booth or a specific dealer I'm looking for. Then we have the list of dealers, and then we have the number, and we can follow then based on that and quickly pin down where we need to go. So that's usually a little preparation thing I like to do. Now, like I said, I'm not setting up as a dealer. So for me, I don't need to carry a lot of quote unquote inventory. However, even with that said, I'm going to bring some cards along for a couple of different purposes. One of them is I wanted to set up a small stack of cards that I'm almost done doing that, but I got to set up a small stack of cards that I want to drop off at ComC. So that's going to be one thing for sure. And then another thing that I want to do as well is I'm going to drop off some cards over to PSA that is going to go for some grading. So we're going to have that happen as well as part of the weekend. I'm probably going to take care of that on Thursday because we've got a VIP dealer preview night. So, and that's going to be a little bit less attended because that you have to have the VIP pass in order to have access to that. And then general admission opens up on Friday. So that's a situation where you can take advantage of having a smaller crowd, even though based on the last one, it's going to be a decent amount of people. You can get your badges and your passes and everything quickly and efficiently. And then at the same time, also be able to peer around and get a gauge of the room right away. So it's going to be a good opportunity, I think, to be able to, if I'm going to capture some images and things, maybe that'll be an opportunity. And I'll see along the way as the show goes on if I can do any live streaming from my phone, maybe do a couple of short ones on my Instagram. So it'll be something, if you've got me on Instagram, then you'll be able to see it. And I'll save whatever I end up doing with it if I end up recording something from the show floor. Now, that said, taking advantage of the dealer preview night means that I'll be able to drop off those PSA cards. That gets taken care of, drop off the ComC stuff. And then that actually leaves me room to start off some initial conversation, chat with some folks, maybe lay the groundwork for some other things. I am going to bring some cards with me. And part of the thought process that I had, and it's something we discussed a little bit on the last live stream leading, the pre-expo one, is I have a genuine curiosity, obviously based on what I've seen out of Dallas and some of the previous shows leading up into this one. I'm kind of curious to see what it's going to look like as far as the room is concerned, what the prices are going to look like. Are people going to be predominantly interested in trying to finagle some cash trade deals? Like I said, a couple of buddies of mine set up as dealers, so it's going to be an interesting perspective to kind of check in with them and see what that looks and sounds like. I may end up helping one of them with a little bit of watching over the table. And if that's the case, I'll see maybe if I can finagle a little room to drop off some cards. But as such, if I'm going to do that, part of my preparation in that case is to make sure that the cards that I am bringing, that I may do something with it, whether it's trade or whether try to sell them or whatever it's going to be, I needed to make sure that I did my little bit of due diligence. So I've started jotting down some information about some comps and kind of getting a general ballpark idea of what I want price-wise, in addition to jotting down what my cost was when I picked up those cards initially. So knowing that immediately tells me exactly what I can do. So my intention is to, if I end up doing anything, I'll already have a pretty good idea where I'm comfortable letting the card go, if I wish to let the card go as far as trade, sale, whatever the case is going to be. A little preparation goes a long way. Again, you don't have to go too crazy on it. Now that leads me into another kind of important thing. And this is something that I guess a lot of it depends on how many card shows you've been to. I know that when you get the VIP passes, you get a couple of different giveaways and things. So for example, at the Beckett booth here, one of the things they like to do is you can get a free magazine or a discount off of a couple of the Beckett almanacs or price guides, the bigger books. So I may take advantage of that. That's included in the VIP package. And you do get some swag in there, which is always great. But then it's always good to double check and make sure there might be some coupons or some things that you might be able to utilize. So if you can take advantage of that when it's a little bit quieter on like a VIP night, like that first night, then you can get whatever promo or giveaway or whatever it's going to be and take advantage of it early. But that's where a little bit of research goes a long way. Put your stuff down, take a look through it. The temptation is to immediately run out to go through the tables. And I guess a lot of that depends on what you're collecting and what your eagerness is. Because one of the things that you can very easily do is you can spend most of your budget on one day if your intention was to go for multiple days, which mine is. Now, one thing that goes in line with that is that I know, being on this side of the border in Canada, is that we've got things like Interac and we, of course, got PayPal. So there are online ways of paying for things directly to the dealer. But I will certainly bring cash because, at the end of the day, that still talks and that makes it easy because then the dealer doesn't have to worry about whether the internet and Wi-Fi is going to work while we're on the show floor. Now, speaking of that kind of leads me into this other point that I was going to make as far as that's concerned. As part of that preparation as well, I put together all my checklists. I'm not going to work on too many projects. And one thing specifically that at this show I try not to do is I have a couple of specific things that I'm out there looking for. But beyond that, I'm willing to be flexible. It's one of those things where if I see something really cool or I see an opportunity or something that I think might be interesting for adding to the PC or that I may want to do something with down the road here, I'm open to making that deal and at least exploring that possibility. But I still want to have a little bit of structure in terms of having a checklist with me. So if I'm going to work on some of my vintage projects, I've got my vintage checklist for some of my vintage baseball that I'm working on. So what I do, in anticipation of the possibility that there may be some signal issues, is that I created my checklists on Google Sheets, but you can create in Excel, you can create in whatever you want. So I put it into Google Sheets, set it up in a certain way where different sets are represented by different tabs, and then I downloaded an offline copy to my cell phone. Because again, if you leave it in the web and then you're not able to access it directly, it makes it a little more difficult. It's easier for me to have the checklist with me, because then even if I'm not having enough bars to have a strong enough signal, I can see the checklist, know what I'm looking for, and then I can go over somewhere where the signal's a little stronger and then scratch it off and then resync up everything after when the day's over. So it's one of those things that it makes it easy just to keep track. And I've got a couple of sets that I have my checklist for that is going to make my life easier in terms of keeping track of that if I'm at a table where that's an opportunity. Aside from that, when my player collections are concerned, I usually have a pretty good grasp on what I'm looking for. So I basically just keep my eyes open, and I'm willing to be open-minded to whatever possibilities present themselves. So that just makes my life a little bit easier. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the least amount of extra effort once I get onto the expo show floor. I don't want to be worrying about, okay, well, how do I keep track of this? What do I do with this? What do I do with that? That's why when I go there, I usually will bring my backpack and maybe have an extra bag inside of it. That's just the way that I like to operate. Again, because I do have the luxury of having a couple of places where I can drop off my stuff in between. That means I don't have to be carting it around all day. So it just makes my life a little bit easier to be able to have kind of a home base to be able to consistently go back to. Obviously, as you set up the show, you're going to be busy doing that, but you obviously also have a built-in home base. So you've got that opportunity, and that is a great luxury. One thing that specifically that I've always been inclined with doing is I don't spend hours and hours and hours on my feet. I will schedule breaks for myself, just because it keeps me fresh in terms of thinking about, because a lot of times I'll look at something, I'll maybe have an idea in mind. If it's not something that I urgently need to purchase, I can go back to home base, have a seat, maybe chat with a couple of buddies of mine and try to figure out what I want to do. So giving myself that opportunity, unless it is, again, something that I think I have to pull the trigger on more urgently, in which case I'm willing to do that. So all those are little things that come into mind. Another thing is, obviously, since I do the YouTube channel and stuff, you love the idea of doing a vlog. It's something that I'll spend a little bit of time on, but I don't want to fixate on it. It's I want to be able to enjoy the show, talk with folks that I only get a chance to talk to every now and then, and take advantage of those opportunities. And that's kind of a thing that I definitely want to do. But along the way, I definitely want to try to chronicle some of it, because these shows, year by year now, they're going to change. And as this hobby keeps evolving, we're going to see these different things. Because you can see even here in this very simple map, you've got this is for Liquid Marketplace, which is not something that I don't believe if they were set up in the last one, it would have been a more minor thing, but obviously they're featured in one of the little logos here. But Liquid Marketplace is something that has evolved a little bit since the last show and since years gone past where Liquid Marketplace didn't really exist. So these kind of things come up here and there, and things like that change. It's going to be interesting to see what the PWCC booth looks like. CSG is sitting beside them. So we don't have a corporate area, but we've got these different booths that are happening all over the place. And like I said, Heritage Auctions is up there near the front. So you've got these specifically labeled ones, in addition to all the different dealers that are set up all over the different places. And you've also got the double booth here for Whatnot. So you're going to be seeing these things kind of as you walk up and down those aisles. So it'll be something interesting to see and something to note as I go along and try to, ascertain kind of what the vibe of the show ends up being. And that's kind of what I want to focus my discussion on when it comes to the vlogs and when we get into that. So I'll leave it kind of at that. General thoughts. I like having a little bit of preparation done ahead of time. I want to make sure I have the cards that are going to go into those different buckets, those little categories. Maybe stuff that I might consider moving, stuff that's going to ComC, stuff that's being dropped off for grading. Those piles have already been set up. I'm going to start really packing in earnest tomorrow. I actually got a shipment in today for some card supplies. So I'm actually going to bring some of my own, because I don't want to necessarily have to rely on what's going on as far as the show, even though obviously there'll be vendors and dealers that will have, top loaders and one touches and this, that, and the other thing as you need it. I always like having some extra, just to be sure, just to be on the safe side, and a couple of extra boxes just in case I want to put some of the stuff into these different places. And one other thing that is the nature of this type of show, where you're pretty familiar with the surroundings, is that I already have a couple of deals lined up before I even set foot on the floor. So some money's already been committed. So I kind of have to work that into my budget. And like I said, I'm going to have some cash with me, but I'm going to kind of figure out how I want to work out the rest of it. For some of the dealers that I know, I may just end up using Interac and just pay directly that way and keep more of the cash for some of the dealers that I'm less familiar with. But those are the little considerations, small things that I kind of work out as I get closer and closer to the show. But I wanted to kind of make this video and talk through some of that with you, just because, as I'm recording on Tuesday night, I've got a day worked on Wednesday, and then I'm off Thursday and Friday, and the show begins on Thursday. So by Thursday afternoon, I'll be on the show floor, and things will get it going in earnest. If you're interested, check out my Instagram. It's the Because I'm Carlos. The link will be in the description. I'm going to try to take some pictures and stuff as I go along. I'm not going to basically spam my Instagram page with a bunch of pictures, but I'll try to take a couple throughout the show just to show off different things that I see or anything interesting that comes to mind. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to throw them in the comments section. I'm still going to be in touch, and I'm going to be online checking out things out, because I'm trying to make some videos and hopefully upload them as I go along. My laptop can handle that. And as far as live stream is concerned, my plan is still to try to do something for Friday, but I haven't finalized what that's going to be and what that's going to look like. I have a pretty good idea, but once I'm 100%, I'll leave like a little community post on the YouTube channel and or my Instagram. I'll make sure it's put out there. If it's going to be live, great. If it's going to be pre-recorded and I upload it after, then that's fine. Then that's what I'll do. But I'll let those of you know through one of those mediums what's going to happen as far as that's concerned. Anyway, so that's it. That's me droning on of me preparing for a show. Now I'm going to get off this and I'm going to start going back to packing some stuff in boxes. That's it for now. Like if you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. More videos coming up on the channel as always. Live streams usually on Fridays. Hopefully this Friday as well. We'll have to see what the time looks like on that. But otherwise, Fridays generally. And that's it for this time around. But the next time that I talk to you in any capacity will be at some format of the expo floor. That's it for now. Thanks very much. We'll catch you in the next one.